Good evening, everyone. As Diana just said, I'm Jan Berris, Vice President of the National Committee, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you here this evening. Tonight marks the end of our 50th anniversary celebration in the States, and so we thought we'd give you a little look back over National Committee history. And since I've been at the committee for 46 of those 50 years, I get to do the honors. For some, U.S. China relations is about grand strategy and geopolitics. For me, it's about people. While government-to-government relations wax and wane, I believe that what binds our two countries together is the very strong, broad, and resilient network of people that has been created over the past several decades among millions of Americans and Chinese. And that all began at the National Committee. But it wasn't easy. A half-century ago, America was experiencing an era of protest and upheaval, while China was caught up in its Cultural Revolution. Based on little knowledge and no contact, we saw each other as a threat. And that made dispassionate discussion about the issues almost impossible. Yet, a few forward-looking Americans, civic and religious leaders, academics, and businessmen, founded the National Committee in 1966 to stimulate and legitimize nonpartisan discussion of American policy toward China. The committee focused on increasing public understanding of the People's Republic through meetings, seminars, a radio series, outreach programs to the media and to the education system, and a large national convocation and a briefing for President Johnson highlighted those early years. The historic visit of the ping pong team in 1972 was a watershed moment in Sino-American relations, and it was a watershed for the committee as well. Hosting the ping pong team turned our focus from public education to a range of cultural and athletic exchanges, from volleyball to wushu, where we gave an adorable 10-year-old Jet Li his first taste of Hollywood, and from acrobats to the Boston Symphony. These high-profile public events helped Americans and Chinese think of each other in a new and more favorable light. The committee began branching out into more substantive areas: international relations, education, governance, media, rule of law, and others. In 1974, we sent the first group of university presidents to China, where J. Rockefeller towered over a throng of curious onlookers. And in 1975, our first World Affairs delegation was the impetus that brought together for the first time George H.W. Bush, who was then the new head of the U.S. Liaison Office in Beijing, and China's senior leader, Deng Xiaoping. We introduced the head of children's television in China to America's beloved Mr. Rogers and his neighborhood. And the young economists we hosted in 1986 all returned to China to become some of the leading reformers, including Zhou Xiaochuan, who's now governor of the Bank of China. The committee organized the first congressional staff delegation and has since provided hundreds more staffers and many members of Congress, as well as mayors and governors and city planners, their first exposure to China, and provided their Chinese counterparts their first exposure to America. One of those groups was led by the governor of Guangdong province, none other than a man by the name of Xi Jinping, who just happens to be the father of the current president of China, Xi Jinping. As Chinese graduate students began studying here in the 1980s, we launched our Scholar Orientation Program. During its 22-year run, we introduced over 1,000 students to American history, culture, and society. This connected the committee with many of China's future leaders, including a particularly promising 1987 SAIS master's candidate, who's sitting at our head table tonight because he's China's current ambassador to the United States, Cui Tiankai. In 1990, at a very difficult moment in U.S. China relations, the committee hosted a delegation led by then Shanghai Mayor Zhu Rongji. This was the first opportunity for forthright exchange after the Tiananmen incident, and it was amazing to watch Mayor Zhu speak to American audiences, often in English and sometimes with no notes, breaking through the anger and disappointment to a place where thoughtful dialogue could occur. And that is what the committee has been about over the years, providing a place for disparate views to be aired and common goals sought. Concerned about the severing of mill-mill ties after 1989, the committee sent delegations of retired four-stars to China, led by former defense secretaries. Their success inspired the ongoing U.S. China security dialogue, led by another former Secretary of Defense, as well as our unique program that sends active duty officers to China to learn all about everything other than security issues. The committee ushered in the 21st century with a focus on next-generation leaders. We launched several flagship programs, including our Young Leaders Forum, where an Arizona senator by the name of Gabby Giffords first met and fell in love with her future husband, astronaut Mark Kelly. And we're happy to announce the recent engagement of two more in the Young Leaders Forum, a Chinese musician and an American entrepreneur. Other next-gen programs include the U.S. Foreign Policy Colloquium that helps Chinese graduate students understand our very complex process, the Student Leaders Exchange to get China on the radar of superstar American high school grads, and the Public Intellectuals Program that nurtures the younger generations of American China scholars. Today, our educational outreach is stronger than ever. We run at least 3 to 5 public programs each month, along with several other special programs. One of these is our annual Chinatown Hall, a national webcast that goes out to people all around the country and to 85 venues around the United States and Greater China. Another, our Barnett Oxenberg Lecture, is the only ongoing series in China devoted to Sino-American relations. These programs are amplified through our growing social media presence and the archive of videos and podcasts, which have reached an audience of over 500,000. The first Track 2 delegation between China and the United States was begun by the committee in 1984 and ran for 18 years. Today, we have 6 ongoing dialogues, all on cutting issues in the relationship: economics, security, maritime issues and international law, healthcare, rule of law and human rights, and energy. When Premier Deng came to the United States in 1979, the National Committee was pleased to co-host his only major foreign policy address. And we've been honored to continue that tradition for every senior Chinese leader who has visited the United States since then. My quick race through 50 years of National Committee history has only skimmed the surface of anecdotes, programs, and photographs from our past 5 decades. But I must take one more moment to thank the countless people who've participated in and supported our programs, briefed our delegations, traveled with us, opened their homes, provided advice and counsel, and so much more. You are what keep us optimistic about the future, and your commitment is critical to our work. Thank you all for watching and listening, and now I'm pleased to present our president, Steve Orlins. I'm delighted to say that Steve was a friend of mine even before I came to the committee, even before he came to the committee 12 years ago, and I'm delighted to say that he still is.
That was fantastic. I love the slides. A lot of people in this room are on those slides. Secretary Kissinger, Secretary Liu, Ambassador Cui, Ambassador Rant, members and friends. President Xi Jinping has become fond of using a particular sentence. 不忘初心，方得始终. For the non-Chinese speaking part of this crowd, never forget why you started and what was in your heart, and your mission can be accomplished. As you saw in the committee's history over the last few minutes, and as we complete the celebration of our 50th anniversary in Beijing next week, we have never forgotten why we were founded and what we have accomplished. We celebrate how far we have come and ask how far we need to go. While our President and President Xi have established a real rapport, there are ill winds blowing that should trouble all who support constructive U.S.-China relations. But tonight, I don't want to talk about the ill winds. I want to talk about what my vision is for U.S.-China relations when we celebrate the 60th anniversary of the committee. I hope our annual investment report, which at that point will be in its 13th year, then includes an investment of Chinese capital and technology in the Boston-Washington rail corridor. My daughter recently moved from here in New York to Baltimore. If we had a high-speed rail like China, the trip would be less than 40 minutes. I could continue our tradition of Sunday night family dinners, which the Orlins family has done for 3 generations. Today's rail system makes that impossible. This investment would be a bright, shining example of Chinese investment materially improving the quality of life for millions of Americans, including me. I see our PACOM briefings analyzing a 1,000-ship Navy exercise led by American, Chinese, Indian, Japanese, and British naval officers. The joint exercise simulates the evacuation from a South Pacific island after an historic typhoon. The multinational fleet leaves from newly internationalized Chinese-built islands in the South China Sea, as we have suggested in our Track 2 maritime dialogue. My hope for 2027 is that, as proposed in our economic Track 2 dialogue, the leading underwriters of Chinese debt and equity are U.S. investment banks, and the leading issuers of insurance are American insurance companies. I was thrilled to see the Chinese government move in that direction immediately after President Trump left Beijing 10 days ago. I picture the National Committee hosting the Chinese president in the United States in our 60th year, as we have every Chinese leader since Deng Xiaoping. And after that event, partly as a result of the numerous congressional member and staff delegations that we have sent to China, the Chinese president goes to Capitol Hill and addresses a joint session of Congress to celebrate China's global partnership with the United States and describe why the Chinese and American dreams can live together side by side in peace. I could go on and enumerate more of the contributions the committee has made and will continue to make, but tonight is about the contributions of every single person in this room. When at the beginning of last year I announced that we were embarking on a $15 million campaign, many said it was impossible. Many said the committee had never undertaken anything so financially ambitious. So I am thrilled, I am beyond thrilled to announce that our 50th anniversary campaign exceeded its goal, and to date, there's still 6 weeks left, has raised in excess of $15.2 million. 这个我用中文讲1520万。I want to recognize those who've made it possible. First and foremost, our Vice Chairman, Hank Greenberg, who has continued his decades-long generosity to the campaign, and the $4 million which he pledged is not even included in that total. I also want to thank our lead donors who committed more than $1 million each: Steve Schwarzman, Chubb, and Evan Greenberg. X-Coal Energy and Resources and Ernie Thrasher. And Akiko Yamazaki and Jerry Yang. Finally, I want to thank someone who flew all the way from Beijing to be with us tonight. He painted the beautiful paintings that you see on the screens on each side, and that will be presented to each of the honorees in the second half of the program. Please join me in thanking Xiong Honggang. 谢谢. I began my remarks by quoting President Xi. Let me close by borrowing his concept articulated at the 19th Party Congress of a 新时代, a new era. Because of the support of all of you in this room, the National Committee's 新时代 will have new programs that ensure that the U.S. China relation remains strong and prosperous. And when we implement these new programs, I am convinced that 明天会更好. Tomorrow will be a better day. Now we have some musical entertainment. Jan's history briefly mentioned our Young Leaders Forum. We invite an eclectic group of leaders under 40 from America and China to join an annual 4-day retreat. They're tuning up. The retreat seeks to build bonds between the best and the brightest of both countries. In 2006, we invited Huang to join the forum. In many ways, this composer embodies the program. His scores are original combinations of Chinese and Western music, lauded by music critics throughout the world. Tonight's pieces will be performed by his Ensemble Fire. Please join me in welcoming Huang.
Welcome, everyone. So as a proud member of the committee, I'm presenting to you 5 short pieces from my Chinese folk rock series, and I hope that would bring the theme of tonight together. And let's welcome my wonderful Ensemble Fire to the stage. Thank you. So the last piece is called Flow.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to the stage the Chair of the National Committee on U.S. China Relations, Ambassador Carla Hills.
Well, I am so glad to see all of you, and I give you my warm welcome. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us to celebrate this 50th anniversary. For a half century, the National Committee on U.S. China Relations has dedicated itself to building understanding and cooperation between our two great nations. And much has been accomplished since normalization occurred almost 40 years ago. Yet, today, bilateral relationship faces not only great possibility, but also some uncertainty. And notwithstanding two successful meetings between our two presidents this year, and more economic, cultural, people-to-people exchanges than ever before, we have to admit that we face some sharp headwinds. Differences over trade and strategic issues, North Korea's intransigence loom large over what we seek to accomplish. And these challenges only underscore the importance of the National Committee's work. We now have, as Steve mentioned, 6 Track 2 dialogues to discuss economic, maritime, strategic, energy, healthcare, and human rights issues. And I can tell you, as a participant in a dozen of the Track 2 dialogues that have been held both in Beijing and in New York on economic issues, I can see firsthand the trust that both governments have in the National Committee and the positive effect that these programs have in helping to build a consensus on our tough policy issues. And we are energized to continue our work over the next 50 years. And thus, I'm thrilled to announce that our dinner, in addition to our anniversary funds, have raised $2.29 million. And this dinner would not have been successful without the generosity of our anniversary-level sponsors, Cravath, Swaine Moore, Perfect World, Sanofi, the Star Foundation, Tishman Speyer, Coal Energy and Resources, as well as our chairman-level sponsors, EY and Yihai Property Holdings. And I couldn't thank enough the incredible development team led by Diana Rogman and supported by Jamie Earle and Roy Hayden, and no statement of gratitude would be complete without mentioning Jan Berris, without whom we wouldn't be here today. And I want to thank warmly our president, Steve Orlins, whose dedication, leadership, and hard work during his 12-year tenure has led the National Committee to new heights. When we began the 50th anniversary campaign, I think he mentioned this, where there were many, many doubts that we would meet our $15 million goal. Well, Steve and his amazing team proved them wrong, and I congratulate each and every one of them. And finally, I want to express my warmest thanks to our stalwart supporters who have contributed to the anniversary campaign. You have heard that. But I need to point out that Hank Greenberg, who has been with us since the very beginning, has made a real difference. Steve Schwartzman, Chubb and Evan Greenberg, ex-Coal Energy Resources with Ernie Thatcher, and Akiko Yamazaki and Jerry Yang have all participated in this absolutely impressive campaign. Now I want to share with you a letter from the President of the United States, congratulating the National Committee on its accomplishments. Dated November 20th, 2017. I send my greetings to those gathered for the 2017 Gala dinner hosted by the National Committee on U.S. China Relations. The United States and the People's Republic of China share an important relationship that affects not only the people of our two countries, but those around the world who seek peace and prosperity. During my recent visit to Asia, I met with President Xi Jinping to build on our positive relationship and discuss our nation's economic and security priorities. I very much appreciate the warm welcome I received from the Chinese people, and I look forward to finding further areas of cooperation as we address common challenges. Congratulations to this year's honorees, and thank you to the National Committee on U.S. China Relations for its commitment in fostering greater understanding and cooperation between our two countries. Melania and I send our best wishes for a memorable event. Donald Trump. And now I would like to invite to the podium China's ambassador to the United States, the Honorable Cui Tiankai, who will read a letter from the President of the People's Republic of China. Ambassador.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a great privilege for me to be invited to the Gala dinner of the National Committee. Now I have the honor to read to you the message of congratulations from President Xi Jinping. And here is the message. Chair Carla A and President Stephen Orlins, on the occasion of the 2017 Gala dinner of the National Committee on United States-China Relations, I wish to extend heartfelt appreciation to your committee for its commendable efforts in promoting China-U.S. relations over the years. I also wish to offer my hearty congratulations to the American corporations that will be honored at the Gala dinner tonight. The 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, held last month, drew up a blueprint for China's future development. Going forward, China will stay committed to deepening its reform, opening itself wider to the world, and enhancing its friendship and cooperation with other countries. In this context, China-U.S. relationship enjoys whole new vistas. I myself place great importance on developing China-U.S. relations. During his recent state visit to China, President Trump and I reached important consensus on a broad range of issues. We agreed on the need to broaden bilateral exchanges and cooperation, strengthen communication and coordination on major international and regional issues, properly handle differences on the basis of mutual respect, and strive for greater development of our bilateral relationship. China will work with the United States to translate these consensus into actions and deliver greater benefits not only to our two peoples, but also to people across the world. Your committee has been a witness and advocate of a growing China-U.S. relationship. I will count on your committee and all the Chinese and American friends from various social sectors to join forces, stay committed to your abiding aspiration, and continue to contribute to the friendship and cooperation between China and the United States. Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China. So, Madam, with your permission, can I also say a few words of my own?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me thank the National Committee for inviting my colleagues and myself to your gala dinner every year. And it's really a magic, Jan. Where's Jan? Yeah, it's a magic that you could find the picture 30 years ago and still recognize how the young guy in the photo looks like today. Thank you very much. But as Steve said, as he quoted President Xi, that we are now in a new era. And as President Xi said in his message, the 19th Party Congress drew a blueprint for China's future development. So China will accomplish its first centenary goal by the year 2020 and will embark on its journey to the second centenary goal. And China's development will continue to be people-centered. We believe now the main challenge for us is the ever-growing needs of the people for a better life versus the imbalances and inadequacies in our development. So as President Xi pointed out time and again, the aspirations of our people for better life should be our goals. And China's development would mean all-round progress in economic, political, social, cultural, and ecological fields. It will be guided by a new development concept, emphasizing innovation, coordination, green growth, openness, and sharing of benefits. And China's development will continue to rely on the strategy of deepening reform and opening up. We are convinced that only reform and opening up will enable China to modernize. As President Xi pointed out during his meeting with the press at the conclusion of the Party Congress, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation will be achieved in the process of reform and opening up. And we have full confidence that we will accomplish all these goals. After all, if you don't have self-confidence, who else could have confidence in you? And the facts have proven that China is on the right track. And our goals are ambitious. We have to have big ambitions in order to modernize a big country with a population of over 1.3 billion people. But at the same time, our goals are down to earth. We have a clear recognition that China is still a developing country. The achievements of the past decades are remarkable. But as we say in China, for a journey of 100 miles, 90 miles is just halfway through. And the challenges ahead could be even more difficult, so we should make even better efforts. We may have good reasons to be proud, but no reason whatsoever to be conceited and self-complacent. We also recognize China's development needs a stable and prosperous world, and China will have to take up greater international responsibilities and make great contributions to world peace and development. Therefore, China will continue to follow the path of peaceful development. We'll pursue a new form of international relations that is based on mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation. in an effort to build a community of nations with a shared future for the mankind. China seeks global partnerships, not world dominance. China stands for better coordination and cooperation among the major powers, and we reject the so-called zero-sum games. China will certainly defend its own legitimate interests and rights, but will never seek our own development at the expense of other countries. Therefore, China's development has brought about new historic opportunities for China-US relations and has opened up even broader prospects. It is our hope that the American side will work with us to make best use of this historic opportunity. We have to stick to the right direction for the bilateral relationship and make sure it will develop, it will grow in a steady, sustained, and sound way for the benefit of our two peoples and for the benefit of the entire world. And in this joint venture, the National Committee has always played a leading role over the last half century. I still remember earlier this year, we had a big celebration for the 50th anniversary of the National Committee. And also this year marks the 45th anniversary of President Nixon's visit, thanks to the efforts of Dr. Henry Kissinger. But even before President Nixon went to China, the founders of the National Committee were already advocating reopening and normalizing relations with China. So we are all deeply grateful to these pioneers. Now we are living in the 21st century. We are living in the new era. But we'll continue to count on the National Committee to play this leading role. And we'll continue to count on the National Committee to mobilize public support and understanding of this important but complex relationship. And my colleagues and myself in the embassy will do whatever we can to join with the National Committee and with everybody here. And together we'll build a really better future, a 更好的明天 for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Wonderful remarks. And now let me focus on our two very special honorees, Microsoft and Qualcomm. And I'd like to welcome to the podium Steve Howe, U.S. Chairman and America's Managing Director of EY, to introduce Brad Smith and Harry Shum, two leaders of the Microsoft Corporation.
Well, good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and thank you, Carla, for that kind introduction. It is my great honor to introduce tonight's first honoree company with whom EY has been working closely for many years and has formed a strong partnership. We are going to hear from two great leaders from Microsoft, Brad Smith, President and Chief Legal Officer, and Harry Shum, Executive Vice President of Microsoft AI and Research. Before I get into all the achievements of Microsoft, allow me to say just a few words about why this introduction is so important to me. In 1982, I visited China for the first time when I was finishing studies at Colgate University. And what I saw then was a kingdom of bicycles, 11 Chinese cities full of life. And so much has changed in the past 35 years. China has transformed itself, but as I look back, one thing remains unchanged, and that is that the Chinese people are so warm and hospitable. What I saw and learned from that trip has had a tremendous impact on my life and my leadership at EY, where we are extremely focused on U.S. and China business flows. At EY, our China Overseas Investment Network, we call COIN, is a strategic effort supported by me and our board. Our U.S. firm and our China firm are dedicated to serving the great companies that continue to strengthen Sino-American relations. Today, I'm honored to introduce Microsoft, this outstanding leader in the high-tech world, who has shown its own tremendous commitment to China. Microsoft plays a crucial role in this transformative age, especially with the massive opportunities brought by collaboration between China and the U.S., the world's two largest economies. Microsoft's long-standing commitment to China over the past 2 decades goes beyond technology and beyond innovation. Microsoft has also contributed to creating academic and educational opportunities for the talent of China, particularly for the youth, and their support also for entrepreneurship throughout China. Back in 1998, they founded Microsoft Research Asia in Beijing, their largest installation outside of the United States. They've teamed up with Chinese innovators and entrepreneurs and have trained more than 10 million Chinese youth in IT and entrepreneurship skills. EY has been fortunate to have formed a long-term partnership with Microsoft in China for more than 15 years. And in addition, more recently, we have formed a global EY-Microsoft alliance combining EY's broad range of business services with Microsoft's comprehensive digital and cloud technologies. 2 things make our relationship with Microsoft even stronger. The first is our shared commitment to diversity and inclusiveness. And second, our strong belief in the great potential of China. I can promise that EY, with organizations like Microsoft and the National Committee, will continue to help build constructive U.S.-China relations. So without further ado, it's my privilege to present this award. You'll see a picture, a scroll painting by the artist, Mr. Xian Honggong, entitled Across the Riverside, made for Microsoft's offices. Harry? So now let's hear from Brad and Harry. Thank you.
Good evening. Microsoft has long believed in the importance and potential of China. That's why we founded Microsoft Research Asia in Beijing in 1998. Thanks to Chinese talent and the country's innovative spirit, this world-class research hub has continually pushed the limits of computing. It has produced groundbreaking technologies that have fueled Microsoft's long-term strategy and our vision for the future. 20 years later, our commitment to the Chinese market has never been stronger. It's simply impossible to imagine a bright future for our planet that is not founded on a healthy relationship between China and the United States. That's part of the reason we've been focused on doing even more to support this vital bridge across the Pacific. Following President Xi's visit to Microsoft in the Seattle area in 2015, we've deepened our partnerships with the Chinese government and with business and academic partners. It's why we've partnered with the China Electronics Technology Corporation, or CETC, so we can work together to serve Chinese customers in the government and in areas involving critical infrastructure. It's why Microsoft has contributed $40 million towards the opening of the Tsinghua University and University of Washington partnership in Seattle, the Global Innovation Exchange, or GIX. It's the first presence physically in the United States for a Chinese research university, and we're proud to be a part of it. It's also why Microsoft Research Asia has, in just the last couple of years, established 10 joint laboratories with top universities in China. It's research that builds on Dr. Harry Shum's personal work as a professor at Tsinghua University and in mentoring and supervising the work of 10 PhD students in China. We're looking forward to continuing to bring the power of technology to Chinese consumers and businesses and contributing to the digital transformation of China's economy while protecting the country's digital security, respecting its digital sovereignty, and supporting and promoting China's local IT sector. But Microsoft's partnership with China goes beyond business. An important part of China's digital transformation is ensuring that China's youth are equipped for this digital journey. That's why we at Microsoft are committed to doing our part. It's why Microsoft Philanthropies has been so focused on a wide variety of activities across China. To date, we've trained more than 10 million of China's young people in information technology capability and entrepreneurship, preparing them for a bright future. On behalf of Microsoft, I want to thank the National Committee on U.S. China Relations for this honor.
It's a great honor to join you this evening. Thank you, Carla. Thank you to the National Committee for the privilege of sharing this evening with all of you. I grew up in 1960s China in a society that was in the midst of changes. It was also a decade of monumental technological accomplishments. Man in space, satellites, supersonic jets, and of course, the emergence of computers. I remember talking to my dad about the computers. Many people, including him, who was a high school math teacher, hadn't actually seen a computer. But they heard about the computers and they knew that they would be big with the potential to change the world. So my dad pushed me to pursue my studies in this new field of computer science. I eventually and fortunately came to the United States and got my PhD in robotics from Carnegie Mellon University. Later, after I joined Microsoft, I had an amazing opportunity to return to China in 1998 as a founding member of the Microsoft Research Asia Lab in Beijing and stayed there for nearly a decade. As a computer scientist, I see so much opportunity in the potential for technology to change the world. It is what inspires me every day about working at Microsoft, that we saw this early and embraced it, and that we see the opportunity ahead on a global scale. Microsoft has a deep history with China. We have worked to be a bridge between the two great countries through industry and academic exchanges, helping to inspire technology innovation as well as economic and social benefits. The talent in China is world-class. In collaboration with colleagues around the globe, our scientists and engineers in China are making groundbreaking contributions to Microsoft's product and business in areas like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, distributed systems, and more. Our investment in talent extends well into the next generation. In the last 19 years, at the Microsoft Research Asia, we have trained and educated more than 5,000 student interns. Many of them are now leaders in the emerging AI and the cloud and the internet industry in China. Let's think a little bit about the next generation, the one that some analysts are calling the AI generation. I have this opportunity to see firsthand that the work that's happening in the United States and China is leading the charge for how we as an industry and a global society will understand and interact with AI. Like or not, we are the first generation to ever live with AI. So as this generation, new AI generation of young people enters the workforce, this will become even more true. This progress of partnership between the United States and China has enabled us at Microsoft to drive forward an open and inclusive culture in technology. In fact, nearly 10 years ago, we joined the Internet Society of China to create the U.S. China Internet Industry Forum, a convention of industry, governments, NGOs, and academic thought leaders who thoughtfully examine and discuss the opportunities and the challenges in our interconnected world. Further collaboration and connection between China and the United States is integral to our collective advancements of the industry, AI and beyond. It's through the establishment of research centers like Microsoft Research in Beijing and world-class learning institutions like the GIX in Seattle, the partnership between Tsinghua University and the University of Washington, that we further open pathways to innovation and together foster top talent. China and the United States together account for a significant portion of the world's technology use and technology innovation. What our two great countries can do together will have a profound effect on the global digital economy and our society. So it is with this thought in mind that I'm optimistic. The opportunity to advance technology sits on our shoulders. A lot has happened in the world and in technology since I was a boy in Nanjing, China, thinking about this new world of computers. We are still very early in this journey, but as computer pioneer Alan Kay once said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And so we must continue to pave the path for technology innovation to benefit our society together. Joining Brett's sentiment and on behalf of Microsoft Corporation, I sincerely thank the National Committee on U.S. China Relations for this great honor. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. Let me now welcome to the podium Evan Chesler, Chairman of Cravath, Swaine Moore, to introduce our second honoree, Paul Jacobs, Chairman of Qualcomm.
Good evening. I'm Evan Chesler, the Chairman of Cravath, Swaine Moore, and it's my honor this evening to introduce my friend, Dr. Paul Jacobs, the Chairman of the Board of Qualcomm Incorporated. Paul is a visionary corporate leader and technologist. After earning his PhD from Berkeley, Paul joined Qualcomm as an engineer in their wireless technology development group. It's hard to imagine, but at that time, Qualcomm was a 4-year-old startup company trying to establish a foothold in what was then the infant cellular communications business. Today, Qualcomm is the unquestioned leader in multiple technologies. Its innovations are what make our smartphones smart. For over 25 years, Paul has been at the forefront of that amazing trajectory. But he's not only an extraordinarily talented innovator, he has a gift that few people are fortunate enough to have. He truly loves what he does. He lives and breathes creative innovation. Although Paul is a 3-degree Berkeley guy, I asked him several years ago to pay a visit to NYU's Tandon School of Engineering, which is in a quaint place called Brooklyn. You may have heard of it. Paul readily agreed to do that, and I sat and watched him spend nearly 2 hours with a group of engineering students. His excitement about his work, about the promise of technology, and perhaps most important, about the potential of the students he had just met was truly inspiring. They were amazed that a person of Paul's stature would take the time to talk to them about their chosen field, that Paul could, after 25 years, still be as excited about his work as he so obviously is. Technology is a force for great good in a world that can frankly use some good these days. Like few other things, technology transcends our differences, easily crosses borders, and holds the promise of making all of our lives, no matter who we are or where we live, better. So it is most fitting that you've chosen this evening to honor Qualcomm and its visionary chairman, Dr. Paul Jacobs. And I will now present tonight's award to Paul. It is a painting entitled The Fish and the Boat. The National Committee specially commissioned Chinese artist Xiang Honggang to produce this for Qualcomm. Paul?
Thanks a lot, Evan, and thanks to the board of the National Committee on U.S. China Relations. I'm very much honored to accept this award on behalf of Qualcomm and its employees. I don't know how many of you actually know Evan. He's worked with me for many, many years now, and when you live in interesting times, he's a good man to have at your back. Qualcomm's beginnings go back to July of 1985 when my father, Dr. Irwin Jacobs, and 6 of his colleagues founded Qualcomm. They were in my family's living room. And their vision was very simple. It was to try to be innovative and to look for ideas that could make a difference. And we followed that ethos. That's been our guiding principle ever since. So for more than 30 years, Qualcomm's ideas and inventions have driven the evolution of mobile technology and really are at the heart of today's mobile experiences. Our success has been a direct result of our ability to anticipate big industry challenges and to invest early on to develop innovative solutions to solve them. And we really continue to do that. We continue to invest across key technologies, including connectivity and intelligence, security, many more, to push the boundaries of what's possible in mobile, and really to accelerate the future, to bring the future in these connected experiences that we all want to have. And doing that, collaborations and partnerships really have been key to Qualcomm's ability to develop and bring new technology innovations and chipset solutions to market. And China has long been a very valued partner to Qualcomm. Our collaborations and activities span more than 2 decades as we work to foster the growth of China's mobile ecosystem, including device manufacturers, equipment providers, software developers, operators, and chipset foundries. And personally, I've been traveling to China for more than 25 years and had obviously many wonderful experiences with business partners, but a lot of personal experiences as well. Strangely enough, some of them have to do with sports. So took the family and 2 of my children, Sam and Jessica, are here. We took the family to the Olympics and spent the Olympics there. Enjoyed it tremendously. We went back to the Bird's Nest for the first Formula E all-electric motor racing race. The very first race was in Beijing. And then our NBA team, the Sacramento Kings, went and played exhibition games in Shanghai and Beijing. So just wonderful experiences, and we've had a chance to travel around. In fact, just a few months ago, I went to a meeting in Guangzhou, and my son Sam, trying to increase U.S. China relationships, decided to spend a month there. He was taking buses, trains, and even hitchhiking, if you can imagine that, around. So he got to meet a lot of people that way. Anyways, back to Qualcomm. Our intention is to play an even greater role in supporting U.S.-China economic growth, which includes fostering an innovation-based economy driven by mobile. And to that end, we invest in joint ventures and projects. We've opened several innovation centers in China to accelerate the creation of new technologies and new opportunities. And I think that really does advance the U.S.-China relationships because it builds bridges across cultures, and it really proves that innovation is a true global language. During the recent bilateral trade mission between the United States and China, our CEO, Steve Mollenkopf, was part of President Trump's Department of Commerce trade delegation to China and signed documents reflecting our long relationships with Xiaomi, Oppo, and Vivo, three of China's leading smartphone manufacturers. Over the next 3 years, Qualcomm expects to provide advanced technologies to these companies valued at more than $12 billion to help fuel their global expansion efforts and further the growth of China's mobile and semiconductor industries. Now, since the early days that we've been involved in China, the mobile industry has experienced tremendous growth. When we started, it was less than 100 million connections globally in '95, and now there's nearly 7.8 billion connections, more than the number of people that are on the planet. And these are supported by hundreds of operators in more than 200 countries around the world. So with that kind of scale and reach, I often say mobile technology is humanity's greatest platform. There's so many things that we can build on top of it. And what's been amazing in China is that the number of mobile connections has reached a staggering 1.4 billion, more than its population. And the pace at which these technologies have been deployed is really astounding. LTE is a really excellent example of that because commercial LTE services were launched at the end of 2013, and they've grown to over 930 million connections. Now the operators in China are launching what we call gigabit LTE. If you can imagine that, you can have fiber-like connectivity to the phone that's in your hand, and it will really enhance today's mobile applications and services, and we think that it's going to power new, more immersive experiences. It's kind of incredible if you think about that there are parts of the world where people have more access to mobile service than to electricity, clean running water, toilets. It's truly ubiquitous now. And with its massive scale and reach, mobile has become a platform for change, really helping to empower people in underserved and unserved parts of the world by providing access to services, information, and resources, something that most people in the developing world just take for granted. Creating new opportunities around entrepreneurship, education, healthcare access, and more. And through our Wireless Reach program, we're evangelizing the use of mobile technology to improve people's lives in underserved communities around the world. For the past 10 years, we've worked with more than 75 Chinese partners implementing 17 programs across China, ranging from using smartphones with built-in ECG monitors to assist underserved patients with cardiovascular disease. And we've also provided connected tablets, to create the 21st century classroom in poverty-stricken areas. In total, nearly 1 million people have benefited from these programs. But mobile is also driving meaningful economic impact globally. In 2016, the worldwide mobile ecosystem, driven by the United States and China, generated $3.3 trillion of economic value, equivalent to 4.4% of global GDP, and supported nearly 28 million jobs globally. By 2020, GDP is expected to grow to 4.2 trillion. GDP impact is expected to grow to 4.2 trillion, contributing nearly 5% to global GDP. And at the center of this mobile revolution is the smartphone. So with this incredibly fast LTE connectivity, with the powerful processors that we're building inside, stunning graphics, imaging, smartphones really changed forever the way that we work, the way we live, the way we connect with each other. And together with our Chinese mobile ecosystem partners, we're bringing new connectivity and intelligence capabilities to the smartphone, including machine learning and artificial intelligence. And these are going to enable next-generation mobile experiences that are much more immersive and engaging. The smartphone's also fueling the digital economy, allowing consumers to purchase and consume products, services, content, and more anytime and anywhere. In China, it's projected that more than 75% of e-commerce sales, over $1 trillion worth, will be transacted via mobile devices. It's pretty amazing if you think about that. And for the sharing economy, which includes automobile ride-sharing companies like Lyft and Uber and Didi, but interestingly enough, bike-sharing companies like Mobike and Ofo. And I have to say, it's the kingdom of bikes again. If you've been to China recently, you see these sharing bikes all over the place. It's just amazing. But the smartphone really serves as the foundational technology, allowing companies to tap into your location and connectivity and processing to enable those kinds of things. I mean, in China, today you can locate and rent everything from a tennis racket to a battery bank to an umbrella, all from your smartphone. So where are we headed now? We're headed into this new technology phase, the Internet of Things, the IoT. And billions of devices, tens of billions of devices, are going to become intelligently connected. From smart homes to smart wearables to smart cities, the IoT promises to make our lives more efficient, more convenient, and more enjoyable. And it's going to transform all industries by enabling new services, new business models, and new experiences. In the healthcare space, we believe that mobile technology will play a fundamental role in driving transformation, helping to improve outcomes while reducing costs. It's going to enable a new era of connected care that's always on and always available to patients. So for those suffering from diabetes or cardiovascular disease, it's going to enable people to just continuously monitor their conditions using intelligently connected medical devices and to share that information via the cloud with their caregivers and with their loved ones. We see an absolutely tremendous opportunity to work with our partners in China to shape the future of the Internet of Things. And we've established several joint ventures and innovation labs in China to accelerate these opportunities, benefiting industries and companies in China and around the world. And the accelerating increase in data center and smartphone data usage and cloud service usage, combined with billions of new connected devices coming online, it's not only impacting the network capacity, but it's also impacting the data center. And so we're drawn from our experiences building low-power processors in mobile and building system-based solutions. We've designed a new cloud server processor that delivers high performance, highest energy efficiency, which is really important because these things draw a lot of power. And it's going to enable cloud service providers to recognize huge savings. Why am I telling you about this? Because we've capitalized, to capitalize on the opportunity, we built a joint venture with the Guizhou government to manufacture server processors in the province, allowing us to drive innovation while helping to grow the semiconductor ecosystem in China. So it's really a win-win for both sides. Also, to meet the extreme requirements of these connected devices and services, we're collaborating with Chinese companies and around the world to drive the development of 5G. So our vision for 5G is that this is going to be a connectivity fabric, that it's going to empower everything from autonomous vehicles that dramatically reduce highway traffic deaths to the streaming of ultra-high definition 360-degree virtual reality content. So in the future, maybe we'll just all be looking at this in our goggles, I don't know. And we'll have even the remote medical procedures where doctors far across the world will be able to provide medical care to people remotely, maybe even using robotics for operations. It's just an amazing amount of opportunities that 5G is going to create, and it's really only limited by our imagination. So to try and understand what the impact of this would be, we commissioned a landmark study on the 5G economy, and the numbers are amazing. So according to these findings, in 2035, when the full economic benefit of 5G should be realized around the world, a broad range of industries from retail to education, transportation to entertainment, and everything in between could produce up to $12.3 trillion in goods and services and create 22 million jobs globally. In China, the 5G value chain is expected to create $1 trillion of economic output and support more than 9 million jobs. And the study says that this will put 5G into that category of general purpose technologies like electricity, like the automobile, that really provide the foundation for massive evolution, giving rise to new industries and benefiting entire economies. So I am excited. I'm very excited, like Evan said, about the opportunities, what the future holds. We're very committed to working with partners in China going forward and, of course, around the world to make this future come faster, because that's what we're all about. And we're going to continue to invest. We're going to continue to do ventures. We're going to continue to collaborate, find partnerships. I mean, that's what we're going to be able to do to make this vision of the future come. So I'm very honored to be here tonight, and I'm very appreciative of getting this wonderful award. 谢谢.
Well, we've had two wonderful presentations by two great companies, and I hope you enjoyed this special evening as much as I. I want to wish you all the best as we approach a new year and to wish you well in the days ahead. So thank you all for coming.